Oh, I see beautiful Nancy showed up too. Hi, Nancy. Welcome, everyone. It is a night we're going to talk about toxicities. This is kind of a part two. I am Tiffany Rutledge. I own Ebb and Flow Holistic Health in California, Missouri. I've been with Solex for going on 5 years. It'll be 5 years in July. Um, I'm a registered nurse. I am still kind of recovering from that and all of the education that I received. Most people will say, "Oh, you're not a nurse anymore." And I'm like, "No, I still use my nursing probably in way different ways and better ways now than I was when I was working at the hospital. But it is great having that background and that education and using it with the AO scanner. So I do feel very blessed to bring that forward for my friends and family and my clients. I see clients every day in my shop. I use the AO scanner along with some other modalities. I do a lot of emotional work, but I have all the Solex things too, the mat and the hub and the wand and all those great tools. Um, and I have an infrared sauna. But tonight I want to talk about toxicities. We talked a couple of weeks ago. It was probably a month ago because my turn is usually the last Wednesday of the month. So the last Wednesday in February, we kind of did a part one on toxicities that was like toxicities around the house, like things that you're cooking with, things that you're encountering around in the yard, in the home, and everything. And so tonight we're going to talk about kind of the pathogen side of toxicities. So whenever I talk with my clients, I often talk to them and explain about frequencies and how everything in the world, has its own unique frequency print, which you guys know. But sometimes I think just sharing like the verbiage I use helps you to maybe create verbiage that you can talk to your clients as well. And so I tell them that, the scanner helps us look at frequencies, and really we differ only in three areas. So like my liver cells and your liver cells, they're all the same, right? We differ in three areas of emotions because we've had different experiences, and we differ in pathogens because we've had different exposures like bacteria, viruses, parasites, candida. And then we differ in areas of toxicities, chemical toxicities, and so forth. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit more about those sort of exposures. We're going to hit a little bit on parasites, candida, insulin, a few things like that. And I have quite a few slides, so I'll move through fast. But if you have questions, put them in the chat and I'll make sure that I go over them before we close the call tonight. So that'll be the best way for me to kind of keep rolling, but also help you not forget that you had a question, and I'll go back at the end. So if that format fits everybody, that is kind of what we're going to do. I'm going to share my screen now. All right. So here we go. So this is going to be a part of that amazing screening, amazing education that Nadia has put together on Thinkific. So I do need to read over this disclaimer really quickly. But this information should not be used as a substitute for professional diagnosis and or treatment from a qualified medical provider. Always seek the advice of a medical physician or a qualified medical provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking because of something you have heard or read here. Any actions you take as a result of information you obtained in this course is your own responsibility, and no participating member of the program can be held accountable for it. This information is not intended to be patient education, nor should it create any patient-physician relationship. We do not claim to diagnose or cure disease. We are presenting general information about the human body. This information in this course is not medical advice and should not be treated as such. It is provided for entertainment purposes only. AO scan technology is not a medical device. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product or any of Solex LLC products and supplements are not intended to diagnose, treat, or mitigate any disease. If you are sick, please consult with your healthcare provider and physician. So now that that's over with, let's get into some of the fun stuff. So we're going to start talking about the pancreas and insulin. So that's going to be our first toxicity, because insulin, although it's an amazing part of our body and it helps us regulate our blood sugar, too much insulin can be a toxicity. And I'll show you where you can find that in the AO scan results. So the pancreas kind of has a unique role. It has both endocrine and exocrine roles. And so the pancreatic duct and the pancreas, you can kind of see on the slides here over to the left. And then you have the common bile duct, and then you have the duodenum or duodenum, however it's spoken in your parts of the world. And that's the kind of the beginning part of the small intestine. And so the endocrine cells secrete hormones that go into the blood vessels. You can see that in that top slide to the right. And so those hormones go down into the blood vessels. So the hormones are those things in those little cells, and they go into the vessel. The exocrine cells secrete pancreatic enzymes through the pancreatic duct. And so it is a little bit important for us to know how amazing the pancreas is and how delicate the balance can be, because it is secreting hormones and it is also secreting enzymes. And those enzymes are the ones that we look for on our skin that help us to digest our food. And so looking at those things on our scanner tell us a whole lot about what's going on with the pancreas and our digestion as well as our hormones. So this gets a little sciencey here, but I just want you to kind of see how the balance works with homeostasis. So the homeostasis, our blood sugar levels fasting, should be around 90 to 100. Now that number used to be significantly higher, so take that for what it's worth. In my opinion, they like to sell pharmaceuticals to help people keep them down below that. That's where metformin really just blew up. But this is right now what they're telling us the normal levels should be. And if you follow the diagram around, let's use the top half of the math from the homeostasis. We have a stimulus of rising blood glucose after eating a carbohydrate-rich meal. And so that stimulates the pancreas to release insulin into the blood, because our glucose cannot be utilized without having a vehicle, and that vehicle is insulin. So otherwise, if we don't have insulin out there, then all that glucose is swimming around in our circulatory system, making us feel kind of crappy, and we can't use it for energy or anything else until it hooks up to an insulin. That's their car, it's its vehicle in. So then the body cells kind of use that, the blood glucose levels declines to a set point, and the stimulus for insulin releases, and that insulin release just kind of diminishes. If we keep following the bottom staff, if we have a dropping that stimulus in that lime green chart, the dropping glucose level, for instance, after we skip a meal, the alpha cells of the pancreas are stimulated to release glucagon to the blood. So we have that glucagon stored up, ready for us to use. So we can skip meals. We can skip a lot of meals. Our body holds on to a significant amount of calories, like tens of thousands of extra calories in our body that we can use at any time. And the liver breaks down that glucagon and it releases glucose into the system. So if we're skipping meals and we don't have it, the liver is going to provide us the glucagon. And then that helps the blood glucose level rise to a set point. And then that's the stimulus for glucagon releases over time, and we get back to our homeostasis. So I just wanted to show you a little bit about how that works for those of you who might not have a lot of medical, to know that there's kind of a balance going on. So insulin resistance, most of you have probably heard about it. And a way that my naturopath kind of talked to me in the beginning is like, if we're storing a lot of body fat in our belly, then we likely have insulin resistance. And he'll say, not likely, you have insulin resistance if you're storing abdominal fat. And so that is created from a lot of constant up and down of the blood sugar. You can see them starting at the top of the chart, top of the graph here. And that constant up and down really starts to create this insulin resistant issue. The pancreas, it makes insulin to let the glucose go into the cells. Remember, like the insulin's the vehicle, it moves the sugar into the cells for us to be able to use it for energy. So those insulin receptors, they kind of meet there. The insulin receptors overload and become resistant to insulin because your body gets really used to these constant high glucose in the blood. So now I'm at the bottom of the chart. When that happens, it's because your body is like, oh, I know what she's about to eat, right? She's going to eat sugar because it's just learning that, about me. I'm just going to say it's me because it's me. So we have this constant high glucose in the body, and the pancreas then starts making more insulin because it's smart and it just like knows that that's what's coming. And so the starving cells have these high glucose levels and high insulin levels, which creates this horrible conundrum that we have of constant hunger and cravings and runs for snacks because the body just got used to dumping in high levels of insulin because it just knows that that's what is coming its way. And then it creates this insulin resistance where we can't utilize the insulin very well. And because we have all this extra insulin out in the system, it's making you have the cravings and the hunger because it needs something to deal with this excess insulin. So it's not really you and willpower at this point. It is physiological changes that are happening with this glucose and insulin issue. So some symptoms of insulin resistance can be acne, skin tags, belly fat, high triglycerides or high cholesterol. And if you are having high triglycerides significantly or frequently on your report, I know we think of triglycerides as being connected to cholesterol, and it for sure is, but there's also a back door of triglycerides that are directly connected to carbohydrates. And if you reduce the amount of processed carbohydrates that you eat, your triglycerides will go down. I myself have reduced triglycerides 150 points in 30 days just by removing processed carbohydrates. So you can make a huge impact with that. So also continuing on our symptoms of insulin resistance is high blood sugar, being tired after meals. So it's like you eat and then you immediately need to take a nap. If you have weight gain, gout, decreased testosterone or low muscle tone, PCOS, fatty liver, craving sweets, hair loss, and low blood sugar. So those are all just some symptoms of insulin resistance. And we're going to see a couple of these show up in a few other things that we discussed tonight too. So conditions that are associated with insulin resistance, we can have pulmonary disease, abnormal function, obstructive sleep apnea, hyperventilation syndrome, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more when we talk about candida, and then gallbladder, gynecological infertility, PCOS are very frequent with insulin resistance. Osteoarthritis, skin issues like rashes, gout, phlebitis, cancers, severe pancreatitis, coronary heart disease, cataract, stroke, and then some idiopathic intracranial hypertension. So those are some conditions. I wanted to put this slide in here because I will put these slides in, they'll be in the Thinkific, they'll also be in our Facebook group for the all of a sudden I can't think of the name of it, but you guys probably know what I'm talking about. But I'll put these slides in there that you can see. But these are all the different names now that they're trying to trick us with that can be like added sugars. So it can be all these different things. There's so many of them that I'm not going to read them off, but just be aware of the sneaky hidden sugar names. Only 10% of our daily energy intake should be from added sugar, and we're getting it in a lot of different ways, in some ways that we might not recognize as being a name for sugar. So just awareness for that. So not all carbohydrates are created equal. Same with not all calories are created equal. And so we want to focus on our carbohydrates on being complex carbohydrates. Their chemical structure is got a lot more fiber in it. And so the fiber then helps kind of be like a plow through the intestinal tract to help move our poo along the line. That's what our fiber does. Our fiber helps feed our good bacteria in our gut. And then its other role is to kind of push things on through the intestinal tract. And so the whole grains, this is where it can be. Now, we also want to be mindful that we're, eating the highest quality of grains that we can, organic when you can, and pray over the rest. I don't want people to go broke trying to get the best sources. And so but do what you can and pray over the rest is what I say. Don't make yourself live in fear over these things. But you want to eat those grains that are high in fiber and nutrients, that have a low glycemic index, and they help you feel full with fewer calories, and they naturally stimulate your metabolism. Our simple carbohydrates are the ones that tend to be not as good for us. Kind of hate using the word bad, but technically they don't work well with our body. So the simple carbohydrates are smaller molecules of sugar. They digest very quickly, so they feed into that insulin resistant issues because they're so quickly digested into the bloodstream that we get those really highs and those dips and that huge variability with our glucose, which causes that dump of insulin, those huge dumps of insulin. So those are things we're going to find in what we call simple carbs. But really, when I'm working with my clients, I'll tell them, these are the things that come in the packages, right? These are the things that are man-made versus, come natural from the earth or, made by God. So the candies and desserts, sugared cereals, sodas, refined grains, and those don't have nutrients in them for us. They're treats, right? But now we're just kind of as society just using these treats all the time as food and fuel, and they're not the best food and fuel for us because they're low in fiber. They are not nutrient dense, so they really don't have nutrients in them for us. Their glycemic index is really high. They're empty calories that convert to fat very quickly. And that's where that triglyceride connection comes in as well. And then we have that high blood glucose level that makes us feel tired, crappy, and leads to diabetes. All right. So if you're looking at your AO scan, there's a couple of things that I want to point out to you that you'll be looking for in the pancreas. And one of them here is the pancreas beta cells and the pancreas glycemic control. So those are kind of what we're looking for if we feel like we're having some insulin resistance issues. So you can kind of watch these to see if red things are showing up in the insulin secretion, and that HbA1c is the hemoglobin A1c that gives us an idea of what our blood sugars have been running for the last 3 months. Blood sugar, and we can kind of tell. If I have a client that comes in and they're taking a GLP, I will generally see that I can tell that before they tell me that they're taking it, because I will start seeing some hits here in the pancreas beta cell, like the C-peptide area. There'll be a few other things that kind of pop up here that I can generally tell if they're taking that, because it is blocking that. And that's the mechanism of how that works. So this is one screen. I'll show you some other screenshots here in a little bit too. So supplement support for insulin resistance, high blood glucose is GTF chromium. It's a great supplement that can help maintain healthy blood sugar levels. I have a link for full script. If anybody ever wants to use that or wants me to help them find things, you can just let me know. Chromium is also found in natural foods. So I try and help people make decisions based on foods and herbs they can take first versus supplementation. Because a lot of supplementation out there is crap. Um, so I try to do food sources first. If we can't make meaningful changes with that, then we go to supplementation second. So chromium is also found in broccoli, meat, um, green beans, nuts, high bran cereals, whole grains, and egg yolks. Berberine, that's kind of been an herb that's been thrown out there a lot in the last couple of years, taking 500 milligrams of that before meals 3 times a day. Cinnamon in just 1/2 or 2 teaspoons per day. Some of these products that I have a Chromium Plus that actually has the berberine, the cinnamon, and the chromium all in one supplement. And then magnesium can also help, as well as fish, bananas, and avocados. That product, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. It's Glucose IR, and that's the one that has the chromium, berberine, cinnamon, and mulberry leaf in it. And it was very effective for me when I used that. The AO playlist. Again, I'll put these slides on, or you can take a picture of this now, or you can wait until I post the slides. But this is a really good insulin suggested playlist. You can select up to 15, and there's some here. Oftentimes with insulin resistance issues, there's some eating, maybe some disordered eating that goes along with this, eating for comfort, emotional eating. And so oftentimes when we have some insulin and blood sugar issues, there's some emotional work that needs to be done along with this. So always recommend listening to the inner voice daily, 2 or 3 times a day, and then working with a provider too that can help you kind of work on clearing emotions. So some will say that the pancreas and it's some dysfunction in that can be because that you're too sweet. And so maybe you don't always speak your truth, or maybe it wasn't safe for you to speak your truth, or you're a people pleaser. And so working on some of those things can help you regulate this as well. All right, I'm going to move on to candida growth right now. Just a reminder, if you want to put any questions regarding insulin in the chat, I'll look at those here at the end. So candida overgrowth, isn't it pretty? Candida overgrowth can lead to leaky gut, food and sugar cravings, inability to lose weight, inflammation, and even chronic conditions like IBS, chronic fatigue, severe depression, and cancers. So the same things that feed cancer also feeds candida and also creates an issue with insulin and sugar. So sugar is kind of the bad guy. It's causing a lot of issues for us. The signs of candida are so huge that often it's not diagnosed with doctors because it has such a huge range of symptoms for people. So I kind of go head to toe here, and it can create itchy, patchy, flaky scalps or sores, even around the edges of the face, on the head. You can get rashes under your arms, under your breast, in the groin, behind your knees, diaper rash, nails that get yellow, peel, or they get kind of thick, and a thrushy thing, a white coat on your tongue. I'll show you some pictures of that here in a second. It can also cause respiratory issues, recurrent cough, allergies, watery eyes, chronic sinus infections, ear infections, fatigue, muscle weakness, poor coordination, paralysis, joint pain, frequent urination, not always productive, a low sex drive, low libido, a body odor that you just can't quite put your finger on, but it just don't smell. Even after a ride out of the shower, you just don't smell good. And that can include the vaginal area, which the vaginal area can also be like dry, itchy, sensitive, and sore. So you can see like this is a huge amount of symptoms that candida can cause, and I'm not done yet, actually. So some signs of candida overgrowth can also be mental and neurological health. So anxiety, depression, moodiness, or constant sadness for no reason, sensitivity to noise or strong odors, cold hands, cold feet, cold flashes, brain fog, poor memory, blurry vision, dizziness, ringing in the ears. So other symptoms of candida overgrowth are often mistaken as conditions like ADHD, autism, Alzheimer's, MS. I mean, yikes. Those are some pretty serious conditions to be diagnosed with that stay in your chart forever, when in fact, some of these horrific conditions can be just from an overgrowth of candida. Just pulled out of my slide, like, oh no. So signs of candida overgrowth in your digestive tract can be constipation, or the opposite is diarrhea, mucus in the stools, belching and flatulence is always a key. That's always one of the big questions that I ask my clients. You know, are you burping a lot? Are you tooting a lot? kind of gripping abdominal pains or pains along the intestinal tract, and then cravings for bread, sugar, alcohol. That's what feeds alcohol. So again, it's not willpower. It's like physiologically, this candida is telling your brain that you need these things because it needs a food source. So the prevalence is that it's one of the most misdiagnosed due to the large number and diverse symptoms. Conservative estimates that like 1 out of 3 people suffer from a yeast-related symptom or health issue. And decades ago, doctors would have just told you that AIDS patients or cancer patients going under, doing chemotherapy, they were the only people who got candida. And now we know that that is not true, that the average people are getting this, and it's directly related to the diet that we have going on. So antibacterial products have also caused a little bit of this. The hand sanitizers, the antibiotics used in bacteria, they're killing all the good bacteria that helps our good bacteria in our gut. Preservatives, they not only preserve the food that we're eating, but when we put them into our gut, they're killing off the bacteria that we need in our gut to help us to digest food and to keep things homeostasis in our gut. Bad fats, the seed oils, and that sort of thing is causing an issue, and then sugar can is a huge culprit for us. Now, there are some benefits to a little bit of candida. It's just like how things are in life. Like when we have an overgrowth or too much of anything can cause us a problem. But H. pylori in the right dose can keep other bacteria in check, but it has to be a good balance. And it's the same thing with candida. So those with diabetes have too much sugar. Candida can come eat some of the sugar so we don't have to produce as much insulin. But again, it's a balance. And candida has a really thick outer protein shell. So it's kind of hard to break up. H. pylori can break it up. And then there's a couple of digestive enzymes that help us as well. So I think I've already said that. I'm going to skip that slide. I want to kind of go into a little bit of how we can keep this balance going. And before I do that, let me go one more slide here. So the foods to avoid if we're working on candida are yeast, alcohol, sugar, juices, unless it's freshly pressed vegetable juice with no added sugar, processed foods, so cakes, candies, muffins, cookies, pasta, cereal, crackers, breads and all grain, starches turned into sugar, soda and energy drinks, corn, peanuts and peanut butter, white potatoes, mushrooms, and dairy. And I did make a note there on the mushrooms being kind of controversial. I've talked to a few pretty well-known experts in the United States regarding this because of all of the new mushroom tinctures and coffees and products that are out on the market. And I've wondered if those create an issue for people. And again, I think it's going to be a balance and it's going to be individualized. And this is another reason why muscle testing is so important for you to learn, even if you just learn basic sway testing, because I do feel like there can be a misbalance if you're using those products for some people. And I've seen it in my own house with some of my family members that don't do well with the mushroom supplements. And so we've done a little bit of digging in that here in our family because of that. It's like kombucha. It's fermented, it's touted to be, really great for gut health. But I personally can't drink kombucha daily. I can only have kombucha every once in a while because it causes me some issues downstairs, if you know what I mean. And so it's just a little bit too much for me. So you really kind of have to play around with this, turn yourself into one big science experiment and figure out what's good for you and where the balance is for you. And muscle testing is so helpful in doing that. So we also want to avoid GMO foods when you can, all non-organic meat when you can. I like to use my local ranchers. Can't really see, but I live out here on a farm. So the next farm over, I get beef from them. And I have an egg lady. I have people. I have a milk lady, an egg lady, a beef man. And so we try, to use our local sourcing and know where it's coming from and know what they're, that it's humane and
Okay.
what they're doing. If you are having a lot of issues with candida, we need to watch all forms of sugar until you can clear that. So you'll want to avoid melons and grapes during the first few days of a cleanse, those high glycemic index foods. Avoid tomatoes and peppers because candida is irritating to the intestinal tract. And these other things can also be irritating to the intestinal tract. So you can end up getting, soreness, but also like little holes in the gut, which can be like leaky gut, and then that can kind of spread. So we want to take care of that and healing that gut as we move along. So avoiding, of course, the chemicals, pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, synthetic hormones, growth hormones, chemical enhancers, artificial flavorings, MSG, and antibiotics. I'm not sure where you guys live. Where I live right now, there's truck after truck after truck. I'm not exaggerating. It's been going on for 3 days, and it smells horrible here because they're spreading chicken and turkey manure and urine all over the fields. But there's a little part of me that knows that that is a better source than what they could be using. Okay, as I promised, here's some of the Candida tongue. So you can see like the whiteness or the plaque on the tongue. Some of you maybe remember your kiddos getting thrush, or even as an adult when taking too many antibiotics, or if you or one of your loved ones has had chemotherapy, sometimes they can develop the thrush too with those medications. So these all kind of show, like the first, second, and third picture have Candida, and then the fourth picture is kind of a clean version after a candida cleanse from the third picture, if that makes sense. So they did a little bit of work. One really cheap test that seems to be pretty dang accurate with my clients is to do a saliva test. So first thing in the morning, before you eat, before you brush your teeth, before you take a drink, just go to bed the night before with a glass of water, set it there on your table, and when you wake up, just spit in the cup. So you're going to spit right in that glass. It's a glass that you can see through, so not plastic, a glass that you can see all the way through. And just work up like a dime size bit of saliva and spit that right into the glass of water. And you leave that
What?
saliva set for about
What?
45 minutes, but you can
How
actually
big
look
you
at it
have?
pretty quickly.
The big heifers.
Okay, you got
Pardon me.
1705,
So we're looking for things that look
203,
kind of like jellyfish legs or a
253.
tornado. Those are all what we would say is as a positive test for Candida. If your spit sets right on top and it never really leaves, 45 minutes later it's still setting on top, then we would consider that a negative test. Um, so all three of these that's shown on this slide they kind of indicate that there most likely is a candida overgrowth. This isn't 100%, but it's a test that I rely on pretty accurately and giving me results with my clients. But we don't just use this because we have the AO scanner. So we have a great tool that helps us look at candida in another couple of ways. So I want you to kind of pay attention here to digestive acids and enzymes. Remember, the pancreas creates these digestive enzymes. It sends them down through, and we want to see protease. So this person scan, it's not a double red, but there is a red there after we scanned on protease. So we know that it's kind of unstable or unreliable. Protease is needed to break down candida. So if you don't have protease, if you're noticing that you have a lot of reds around protease, then your candida is not being able to be broken down. On a natural, just a normal average day, you're not being able to get rid of that. And then we want to look at the fungus. Under the fungus, we have the candida, and there's lots of different kinds of candidas that you can look there. But we're going to use symptoms, right? Are you belchy? Do you have a rash? You have a lot of gas. We're using those symptoms that we talked about, plus we're using the spit test, and now we're looking at the AO scanner, right? We got a lot of information here that can kind of point us to, yeah, I think we have a candida overgrowth going on. And one other slide Um, we can look here too, but the one I wanted to point out is alcohol. So alcohol, I don't have a double here, but I have a red with the previous scan and then it kind of greened out. But if I have somebody having a lot of symptoms of alcohol and we're looking at the protease and we're looking at candida and they have a hit on alcohol, I generally will ask, did you consume alcohol? And they'll say, I mean, some people will say, yes, I drink, a couple times a week. Some people will say I never drink. Some people will say, two or three times a year. If they're hitting on alcohol and they are not um, typically known as somebody that drinks on a regular basis, that is another key thing that I look for with Candida because they are not consuming alcohol, but they are producing alcohol in their gut. And so I am a firm believer, and this is just me, that that lead can lead to a non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So they're calling it non-alcoholic fatty liver disease for these people because they're not consuming alcohol, but the liver doesn't care. It doesn't care whether they're drinking it or they're making it. It's a toxicity to the liver either way. And so I do use this alcohol um, toxin to kind of help me look at the liver and
And
candida overgrowth. Okay, so foods to include for the Candida overgrowth, non-starchy vegetables, artichokes, broccoli, celery, eggplant, kale, onion, zucchini, low sugar fruits like avocado, lemon, lime, olives, non-glutinous grains like buckwheat, millet, oat bran, quinoa, teff, amaranth, rice, um, protein, eggs, herring, salmon, and some almonds, flaxseed, hazelnuts, apple cider vinegar, basil, cloves, paprika, flax oil, olive oil, sesame oil, and then some sweeteners like stevia, kefir, olives, sauerkraut, drinks like chicory, coffee, or herbals. And again, you have to pay attention to yourself. The fermented foods, I didn't put kombucha on here, but it's also another fermented drink that you can add in here too. Sometimes chicory causes people some digestive issues. It's in a lot of fiber bars and some of the protein shakes and things. And I've noticed it creating an issue, and it is on the scanner. You can see if it lights up as red. Oftentimes, if that lights up, I'll start investigating like where they might be getting that or if they have some digestive issues. So just have to kind of play around that. Some support for ridding the body of Candida is Pure Essence, is the brand Candex, protease type enzyme because of that hard shell, black walnut, which also helps with parasites, ADP, oil of oregano, probiotics. If it's Candida issue, I do try not to use lactobacillus. Fermented foods, fasting. Like I said earlier, we store up like 130 to 150,000 backup calories. So you have a long time to go fasting before it really would cause damage to your body. And then managing stress. So detox, we need to be pooping every day. Every detox that you're thinking about doing, you need to be pooping every day to begin a detox. Sauna is a great tool. Sweating, um, favorable enzymes to help us with immune defense. Release of mycotoxins can make you feel really crappy. So supporting, make sure you're sweating, make sure you're pooping. And then you might want to add in some binders, which we'll talk about in a second. If your detox is hard, you could add in an IgG from Microbiome Labs, IgG 2000, or colostrum. If you take those, can help you lessen those detox symptoms as well. Here is the playlist I made for Candida. Again, you can also add in anything that you scan to be good for you through homeopathics in here, and you might not have all of these symptoms, so you'll have to adjust them to whatever symptoms you're having because remember, Candida has such a huge, vast list of symptoms. All right, we're going to move through parasites. I'm sorry I'm moving fast. There's just a lot of toxicities for us to talk about. In a later date, we might break these out individually and do longer talks on each one. So we have a lot of different parasites. I've done talks on parasites before, so there's other huge, bigger slides out there on them. Most parasites are microscopic. You can't see them with the naked eye, 70%. Researchers estimate that 95% of us have parasites, but if you go to a regular PCP, they're going to tell you you don't have them or we don't have them. I'll tell you that because I don't think that we have them. 70% of them are in our digestive tract, but we can also have them in other areas like our lungs, our brain, our liver. Liver flukes are very common. You can have them in your skin, like through things like scabies, spleen, testicles, ovaries. They can hide everywhere. They are 100% dependent on you to survive. Overgrowth is a symptom. And it's a symptom that you have a low vibration and they like that. So we have to figure out, why do you have such a low vibration? Is it a digestive issue, immune system issue? Is it heavy metals? Is it emotions? What's keeping your vibration so low that makes you an incredible host? But the higher you raise your vibration, the less parasites are attracted to you. I've watched people, and this is no joke, it sounds crazy. I've done emotional work with people in my office, and they have gone to the bathroom and had a BM and cleared parasites just after we did emotional release. I've seen it on more than one occasion at my clinic. So reliable testing is very hard with parasites. They're very stealth. They hide. So like testing through blood's very difficult because they go and hide in all these other places. And some of them can even self-destruct when they hit air. So they're kind of crazy. There's a lot of different symptoms of parasites. Sleeping problems. I'll let you read through here. Appetite, visible signs too. There's a lot of headaches. Can cause a lot of emotional issues. I like for people to track symptoms during new moon and full moon. That's when parasites are more active, so they're defecating more and their waste is more toxic for us. So you have the ability to look at your AO scan results and to look at your parasites, and you can start using that data around new moon and full moon. And if you're noticing more of those during those times, then it's time for you to think about doing a cleanse. So again, detox pathways have to be open, sweating, movement, infrared sauna, pooping at least daily, if not after every meal, tons of water. Foods that are supportive are papaya seeds, raw pumpkin seeds, pomegranates, garlic, sweet potatoes, coconuts, beets, and carrots. I have seen, read a study, and I note it right here, is that honey, raw honey, and papaya seeds cleared 23 of the 30 patients of parasites just using that plan. And so, that's cheap, it's natural, and it's an easy way. And I always try to plan those around the full moon cycle too, a couple of days before the full moon, through the full moon, a couple of days after. Common die-off symptoms when you are doing these detoxes can be bloating. You can have a lot of gas, some diarrhea. You can have skin breakouts because your skin's the largest organ, so they're just trying to find any way that it can to get out. You can get headaches, aches and pains, kind of like the flu. Anxiety, depression, food cravings, fatigue, excess mucus in the stools is also very common as you try to clear out. And with parasites, that excess like mucus in the stool is generally what we call biofilm, and that is where the parasites like to live. It's like their nest, and it protects them. But being able to clear out the biofilm first, we know what's coming next, right? The parasites. And so you can look for that. I always tell my kids not to look at my text messages because I have people text me pictures of things all the time. It's kind of the nurse in me. I like looking at all that stuff. Um, I think it's when you start having the mucus and the biofilm, it's like, yes, like we know what's up next. So you can kind of play around looking at your parasites, knowing like this person had a pretty heavy parasite load. They are also having some symptoms. And so this would be someone that I would recommend doing a cleanse, barring that they're pooping every day and sweating and getting movement and drinking lots of water. The parasite is also like the largest category in our scanner. So people start kind of getting freaked out when you go through those. But here's a parasite playlist I put together. Again, the homeopathics, you can, use the scanning feature within the homeopathics to pick out which ones are the best for you or your client. So you can kind of mess around with that a little bit. Heavy metal toxicities. These are some symptoms of the heavy metals. You can have some gastrointestinal, abdominal pain, muscle cramps, burning sensations. Sometimes it's in the feet. People notice it in the hands and feet more, tingling in the hands and feet. Neurological symptoms, headaches, irritability, stupor, coma, convulsions, abnormal heartbeat, chills or low body temperature, dehydration. So heavy metal toxicity can be acute, like you just had a recent exposure, but there can be also chronic heavy metal toxicities, a lot depending on like occupations, hobbies, and what people have been exposed to in life, including, I live here, farming, so we have heavy metals are used a lot in pesticides and things that I have no control over around here. I mean, there's people flying around dumping it um, off planes all around us. But severe symptoms can include anemia, brain damage, memory loss, difficulty breathing, liver damage, kidney damage, miscarriage, or risk of developing cancer. The neurological impact is really where we kind of look at with the heavy metals. It can cause a lot of issues, but research is now supporting that chronic high levels can contribute to cancer, autism, dementia, and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Anything that passes through that blood-brain barrier. So we all heard a lot about aluminum, knowing that we really shouldn't be cooking with aluminum. I think a lot of people have gotten away from using aluminum pots and pans, but then they don't think about it that they use like the disposable aluminum and aluminum foil. They grill with aluminum foil. So there's a lot of ways, drinking out of cans. There's a lot of ways that we're still getting aluminum in, even though some of us have taken that out of our cookware. It's still floating around there. We're using it a lot. Um, I think I just said all those things. Uh, Water source can be there too. So the food contains a wide range of metallic elements such as sodium, potassium, iron, calcium, boron, magnesium, selenium, copper, and zinc. And we need a lot of those, right? Those are trace quantities in our maintenance and we need those for all of our cellular processes. It's the heavy metals that become more of an issue for us. And that is, in the last bullet point here, is mercury, lead, cadmium, tin, and arsenic. And mercury and lead often being referred to as the heavy because of their high atomic weight. But we have to think about like dental, a lot of us have that. We can have other things in our body that have some heavy metals that we're walking around with all the time. So, how these heavy metals create toxicity for us is that they have no known metabolic function, and they disrupt normal cellular processes, which lead to toxicity. And they can accumulate in our bones, in our organs, and they can be stored up, causing liver and organ damage as well. It's just a little slide that shows you some ways. We're now finding out that a lot of herbal supplements have heavy metals too. I know we all think that, my gosh, I'm trying to do all these things that are right, and then it's creating other issues for me. Rice is known for having arsenic, so try not to use the instant rice. Use the other rice and rinse it before you cook it. That takes an immense amount of the arsenic off. And this just shows you, some other sources of where you can be getting some of those heavy metals. So what does the AO scan show? We have a heavy metal section. We're so lucky that we have this to be able to track. And again, a one-time scan we're not going to freak out with, but if we're continuously seeing heavy metals show up, then it might be time for us to do a bit of a cleanse and work on that. So supporting the body during detox, whole foods and spices to enjoy when you're doing a detox is leafy greens, herbs and spices, foods rich in vitamin C, garlic and onions, water, flax and chia seeds, and bone broth to kind of help us too. We want to avoid the farm fish because they can contain a lot of heavy metals, food allergens, non-organic foods with additives and alcohol, especially during this detox period. And here's some great things that we can add to vitamin C and cilantro. Cilantro is great at getting out metals. You can find cilantro tinctures. You can make yourself a cilantro tincture, or you can eat cilantro, lots of cilantro. Um, Not everybody likes cilantro, but in those cases that they don't like to put it on their food, they could make a tincture and use the tincture. And the tincture's strong, so you'll get a little more benefit from that too. And then there's just regular detox things that we would use, like milk thistle, probiotics. I always say the shallot. I always say that wrong. But that's a really good adaptogenic plant similar to activated charcoal. And then another one that I'm going to mention that's not on here is the fulvic humic acid, which Solex sells gold. It's a fulvic humic acid. And, one of a dose of that a day is really good. It's like up to 130 different minerals are in there. But if you use fulvic acid a couple of times a day, it actually works as a really good detox. So adding the gold in here too, I need to adjust that and put that on my slide. Here's some other good herbs that help during a detox: barberry, blackcurrant, boldo, purpurina, don't know how to say that, burdock root, cayenne pepper, chive, cilantro, cinnamon, cumin seed, echinacea, and milk thistle. Um, and I know I'm running short on time, so I'm going to run through theirs. Some binders, everybody's going to be a little bit different on what works. Activated charcoal, I like to use in an emergency. Somebody's feeling like a flu, but that's not a binder that I would typically take on a daily basis because it takes out good and bad. Chlorella is a really good binder. Most people muscle test pretty well for that. Bentonite clay, spirulina, diatomaceous earth. So we must be pooping daily, drinking water like it's your boss, and moving your lymphatic systems. If you have a good lymphatic cream, dry brushing, sauna, all that helps tremendously too. I keep getting ahead of myself. Using your ion cleanse would help. IV nutrients and glutathione to help support you during your detox, and of course using your AO scan. So here's a playlist I have for heavy metals. You can take a picture or I will post the slides. Again, using your scan function here, I have that up here on the homeopathics because you want to use the homeopathics that are best for you. So your husband, if you scanned him, because you're both going to do a detox at the same time, he may have totally different list of homeopathics to use. So we want to make sure that this is as individualized as possible. And I want to point out Solex's new product called Cleanse. I have mine on order, but I haven't received it yet. You're going to notice a lot of the same names of the supplements that I've mentioned tonight to use for detox. The black walnut, the wormwood clove, pumpkin seed, papaya seed, garlic, ginger. A lot of these things are in what I had recommended, from doing these presentations before. And now here we are, another gift that Solex has given us is this cleanse product. And so every night before we go to bed at night, it's a great time to kind of help clear out the liver. It helps you sleep a little bit better. You just steep this tea in and start off steeping it for a shorter period of time. And then as you go, you can steep it longer because it's stronger. But these are not meant for an everyday 365 product for you to use. These are made to do like you do a bag of 15 and then do that periodically through the year. It's not intended to be like an everyday thing. So you can there's 15 in a bag. You can do 15 of those and then wait a month or two, maybe once a quarter, kind of do another bag of those. I believe Kai has done a talk on cleanse too. So you can look for that in the um, YouTube channel. It should be in there. And this was not on Solex Global the last time I looked, but it might be there by now. I didn't look today. It might be in there this last week while I was out cruising. I didn't pay attention to see if they got it loaded on there, but I know that they will shortly. And so in closing, how we want this to be is we want to set a goal and we want to achieve it. And we think it's like this nice straight line, but really we set a goal, we start, we doubt ourselves, we learn, we fail, we practice, we feel lost. Oh, we're getting it. Then we struggle, then we achieve it. And so that is just life. And I just want to encourage you to just know that it's like you're just doing a big experiment on yourself. And there's there's no losing here. You're learning and you're going to learn what works best for you. And that might not be what's best for your neighbor or your spouse. And just kind of play around with things for a little bit. Have patience, keep good notes on what's working, use your intuition. You know, what feels right. If you start talking about something and it feels good, like, yes, this is right, trust that. If you feel it in your gut, like, I don't think this is right, then trust that and just really learn to listen to the cues your body's giving you because all the answers are there. We've just learned so many ways of self-doubting that and not paying attention to the answers that our body is ready to give us. So I am gonna try to figure out how to go back to my Zoom. I am not super techie. Um, and look at questions. And you can also ask me questions. Okay, so sorry, I heard you ask the question, but just getting kids situated. Oh, I'm not sure what you mean, Brittany, but if you have a question, pop on here. And what about cayenne pepper? Cayenne pepper is great for so many things. So it's a good detoxer. It's great for the cardiovascular system. It's great for pain. Overall, it's great for inflammation. So it's a great supplement all around. You can make a tincture. You can buy the herb. You can add it to your food. So there's a lot of different ways for you to consume cayenne pepper. Anybody else have questions?
Is there any way you could go back to that parasite playlist? I missed getting a picture of
Yeah,
that.
I think it's really, it's really pushing me here. There you go. Oh,
Hey,
can you see
thank
it?
it's I don't know if maybe I can enlarge it. No, that's not going to let me do it. Yes, I got it. I can get it.
Here we
But
go.
oh no, you went back. Or what did I do? I missed it.
I
Okay.
made it big.
Oh, okay. I got
Can
it.
you
Thank
see
you
it?
so much. Thank you for
Yeah,
your time and all your knowledge.
you're
Thanks.
welcome. You're
Good stuff.
welcome. I'm gonna stop sharing now in case anybody has questions I don't want to ask on the recording. But thank you all for joining me tonight. I've really enjoyed it. Okay, so now if anybody has questions but they didn't want to do it on the record button, it's your time to ask.
I have a question. The one Zoom I was on, they were talking about the erase button and then you can hold it up to yourself.
Yeah,
Is that the one on the Cephi
yeah.
playlist?
You can
Okay.
use any of the erase button shows up a few times, but there for sure you can do it. Yes, on the Cephi. I think it
Okay.
might also be on. We'll have to go, and I'm gonna admit I use the old version of because old habits die hard. I think on the quick scan there's an erase button too. There's a clear button there that you can also use. But yes, it doesn't. I would tend to use it more in the Cephi, and it doesn't last very long. Kind of quick, and so you may need to do it multiple times depending on
Okay.
what you're erasing. Headache, pain, something like that.
Okay. Okay. And do you suggest any omegas? Anyone's
I like the krill. Um, they're smaller fish, so they have less, heavy metals in them. But you can also, there's plant-based omegas as well. I am seeing a lot of people with alpha-gal, and so I'm having
oh,
to be really careful with them because the omegas often are in gelatin, and my people with the alpha-gal, they can't have gelatin. So I've been sourcing out a lot of plant-based stuff too. But Solix has an omega that I have people that muscle test well for that and use it, and it's fairly inexpensive. I think it's $22. So
okay.
you can muscle test that one and see, and you don't have to have it in your hand to muscle test it. You can just pull it up on your screen, look at the picture of it, and say, is this a good omega for me? If you move
Okay.
forward, yes. If you move backwards, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did not know I could just look at a picture. I always thought I
Yeah.
had to have it in my hand.
No, you can look at a picture too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, intention. It's everything. So you could even write it down like um Solex, I think it's called Omega. I'm trying to think of the name of it. Um I think it's called Omega. You can just, write that down on a piece of paper if you want to and hold it. And if you go forward, yes. If you go backwards, no.
Okay.
I think it's just called Omega. I'm trying to think, but I order it. You think I would remember, but I'm having a hard time right this minute. I have quite a few, um, I see quite a few like autistic ADHD kiddos, and I always put them on Omegas. And I have several of them that have muscle tested well for that one, and they use it. And it's a fair price too. I mean,
Okay.
that's one of them that I've been really impressed with the price point of it because some of those Omegas can get pretty high. Um,
Yeah.
right now, I have my husband on one that's a little different, but it has like red yeast rice, right, red yeast rice in the omega and a couple of other things in it too. And so it's a little more pricey, but it has more things in it as well. It's
Okay, because the
different.
reason why I'm asking is I listened to a video from Nadia about Lyme's disease, and they mentioned the omegas. So,
Yeah. Mega Pro, and it is $22 and it has an EPA, DHA. So it's got a 2 to 1, two parts EPA to 1 part DHA. And you can watch your omegas on your skin, and you might need more than that. That might not be enough. That's just two sources of omegas. And so there are other supplements out there that have more um, components in it into their omegas. But then
okay.
food wise, avocados, walnuts, fatty fish, salmon, sardines, that sort of thing. Did I say avocados?
Yep,
If I didn't, yes. Sorry, it's getting late, so my brain's kind of it's checking out.
that's okay. And I noticed with the chat the other day, yesterday, there was a team call that I missed, or
Do you know what it was?
um, oh, sorry, I'll
Was it
go
Connie?
back. Um,
Connie posted one last night. She did one last night.
yeah, Quantum Clarity Bundle Update
Yeah.
Masterclass.
So Connie sells a package and she sells it pretty inexpensive for all of us as our team. So you can go watch that because she posted the recording. So you can go watch the recording of it. But it's a
Okay.
tool that you can go in and you use Chat GPT and it helps you develop playlists.
Oh, okay.
It's
That's what it was.
amazing. Like
Okay.
amazing.
And what are the places that we do find all these videos? Because I know there's a lot out there, and I just want to make
Uh-huh.
sure like I'm
We
looking at the.
post our team calls are posted in a Facebook group called Vibrant Energy.
Okay.
It's got some purple coloring on it. And then we also post them in the Thinkific course.
Okay.
So two places.
Okay. And then the AO, that one is just like global then.
The they like the AO,
Sorry, I'm trying to get to it.
the Facebook group.
Solex
That's
AO Scan official group.
Yeah, that's just a place where you can ask questions, and some people do post resources in there. But I don't think you're going to find a lot of like videos or training in there. And that's everybody.
Okay.
That's all of Solex. The Vibrant Energy and the Thinkific course is Nadia and Down, and her playlist is or her group. That's who has access to that.
Okay.
And others can if they want to pay, but for for all of us team members, it's free.
Okay. I just wanted to make,
what is the Vibrant Energy Facebook page again? I see one that's got um Front Range Community. No, that's says you said it's purple.
Yeah, it's got some purple in it. Let me see if I can open it.
There's like 50 of them.
Ellen, I just invited you to the group.
Oh, thank you. That's fine.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Patty.
You're welcome. I just thought, I'm like, wait, I just saw it when I was looking up at that other one.
I have to like think about where I put things. Home. No, I don't want that. I don't even know if I'm still on screen share, but it looks like this. Can you see my slides?
No, you're not on screen share.
I think it says Vibrant Energy Reset.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's tons of video. We
Okay.
created this so as you guys add people, you can send them in here and it's 12 in the files, there's 12 weeks of programming. And it shows you how to use things, it's topics, totally wellness, but then we also go in here and now we put our team calls in here as well. But if you go over to like files, or I'm sorry, we're going to use guides. Here's the guides. Guide week is the first week. It's the welcome video. And then week 1 and 2, how to create custom playlist, water, multi-scan, week 3 and 4. So it's a great way for new people to get started. They can, of course, move through it faster than week 1 or 2, but it's also telling them how to, it's also helping them learn how to get going on their wellness plan. So we talk about everything in here, nutrition. Like the video that we did tonight is going to be a part of this guide too. We already had it in here, but now it's um, there was somebody else that's not in our group anymore that had done the talk. So um, I recorded tonight so we can replace that. So it's people from our team. But we post lots of different things in here. It's another great way, and it's a little bit easier to get to than the Thinkific, but the Thinkific is just invaluable. I mean, there's so much information there. If you're a new user and you haven't done Thinkific, you're kind of selling yourself short in learning because it's all there and it's easy to learn. Nadia's done a great job of putting that together. All right, I don't want to rush anyone, but supposedly they're teaching us tonight about something new, which I think it's going to help answer some questions for people who are using the new Cephi cleanse. No, what is it called?
Well, good. Then I'm going to jump off and go to listen.
The frequency cleanse. Yes, I think that's what he's talking about tonight. And there's been a lot of questions on, I always get brown. And I think Lauren's going to talk about that tonight. So go catch up on that and go be amazing and keep coming into the calls and go out in the world and share. If there's anything I can do to help support you, I'm always here.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. This
You're
has
Thank you,
been
welcome.
awesome.
Tiffany.
All
It's
right. Take
exactly
care,
what I
guys.
needed to hear tonight
All right. Well, good. I'm glad
because
to hear that.
I'm gonna start my tea cleanse tonight before the full moon, and for as many days after the full moon my body can tolerate it.
That's right. Just steep slow. And as you know, you're tolerating it. And then you can increase the length of what you steep it for as you go along. Just start slow.
Well, I'm thinking I might steeple dark and then dilute it into smaller portions
Yeah, you can do that too.
over the course of the next few days. Keep it in the fridge.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Well, good. I'm glad because it seems more economical to do it that way to me.
Yeah.
It's not going to
All
lose
right,
any of.
guys.
Do you think it would
I'm
lose
sorry.
any of its potency by doing it that way?
I don't think so. Actually, there's another group I follow, then that's what they do. They make one big one and use it over a period of time.
Well, good. I'm glad I'm thinking like the group.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. I'm off to make dinner for my family. So
Good
love
night,
and
all.
light to you all. Take care.